Okay, well, I think I'm online. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, basses. Great to see you all. I really enjoyed our little kind of welcome warm-up rehearsal yesterday evening. Amazing to see so many people joining onto this course. Such a good way to kind of kick off the new year. A new year that I think we were all hoping in a way would be a little more normal than the last 10 months or so. But in the self-isolation choir world, nothing changes in the best way possible. We can keep doing this come rain or shine. And it's certainly for me, it's a real, it's a real privilege to be able to continue making music in such difficult times when making music is pretty much impossible any other way. I also rather like the way that this rehearsal schedule for this project, we work from the bottom up. Somehow it kind of suits Beethoven's music that we're going to start with the kind of fundament of the bass line. And then throughout the week I kind of get up sort of higher into the stratosphere, into the sopranos. We've got some nothing quite as low as the Mahler for those of us who did the Mahler too, but some good kind of growling low notes for us to get stuck into, and some quite high ones as well. We've got a pretty substantial register, perhaps the biggest register of any part actually in this symphony. Great, so we've got lots of people joining. Hello everybody. Hello Barry. Hello Dave. Hello Albert. Wonder where everyone's joining from. Lots in the UK, that's great. Couple from abroad. Hello Tony. Watford Philharmonic Choir, great. So Tony, I wonder if you've sung this before with the Watford Philharmonic Choir. It sounds like the kind of choir that might have done. Yes, Barry, I've got my this time I'm plugged in. It's the one thing I knew when I was setting up this setup in a new room. I knew there'd be something that I would forget, and crucially that thing was plugging in my computer. But I'm plugged in now, so hopefully there's no danger of losing me. Oh yeah, and Glennis says quietly in the corner practicing her German. Yeah, very good. Well, funny fact about this piece is that when it eventually got premiered in London by the somewhat grumpy Philharmonic Society, who'd paid for the damn thing and didn't actually get Beethoven over to conduct it for the premiere, because of the kind of culture at the time, it was considered very improper to sing something in German. So they translated it into Italian. They didn't translate it into English, they translated it into Italian because that was considered the most beautiful language to sing in. So the English premiere of this piece was sung in Italian. I don't know if Beethoven found out that had happened. Not sure he would have been very happy. I think the whole point of it is not that it's necessarily in German, but he wanted to set a German text as opposed to what would have been the more conventional Italian text in those days, because that was what people, where the piece would have been played in Austria, would have understood most directly. He wanted people from any walk of life, no matter how kind of rich or poor, well-educated you were, to be able to understand the words directly, immediately. And that's why, as we'll find in this piece, the text is relatively short. The text is by Schiller, and it's quite a short poem, but Beethoven repeats it over and over and over again. Often the soloist sings something, and then the chorus kind of affirms it by singing it again, and then we get bits of the text come back later. If you were to kind of write out the text as Beethoven sets it, it would run for quite a lot of pages, I think. Anyway, so yes, the whole point is that people really kind of get what the text is about. Although it's interesting that I was talking yesterday about how it was kind of Beethoven was something of a kind of keen 19th century revolutionary, keen on the kind of ideas of the French Revolution and kind of freedom for everybody. But in fact, this text, which was written by Schiller around the same time, inspired by the French Revolution, inspired by all these new ideas of all men being brothers, he actually toned it down after Louis XVI had his head cut off, because he was so horrified by the violence that had ensued from what originally seemed to be, I mean, it wasn't for very long that the French Revolution didn't seem to be violent, but what originally seemed to be at least a kind of worthy cause turned into a rather bloody one. So a couple of the lines, as they are set in this, are toned down versions. There were originally a couple of lines about kind of, overthrowing princes and that kind of thing that I think were deemed to be poor taste after said king had his head cut off. So there we go. Not a good time to be a king in France, the 1790s, that's for sure. Great. So we'll give it another couple of minutes, and then we can get going. We'll do a couple of warm-ups as usual. Do a couple of our favourite warm-ups, perhaps, for those of you who remember the Mahler warm-ups. Because we've got plenty of German words to get our mouths wrapped around. Hopefully not too much of a tongue twister. Great. Barry says, sang it with the London Phil, and they know this piece backwards. Yeah, I used to sing with the London Symphony Chorus, and I remember my first concert that I did with them was Beethoven 9. And because they all knew it so well, we had sort of one rehearsal on it. And I thought, well, I don't know this piece. And we had to do it from memory with Gustavo Dudamel and the Los Angeles Philharmonic in Paris. And so there was I, basically surrounded by all these people who knew the thing back to front, sort of making it up as I went along, it's fair to say. So if you find yourself in that situation where you're not quite sure what the words or the notes or the rhythms are, or even where you are in the piece, then I can sympathise with you. I can tell you that I've been there myself in a relatively high-pressure situation. So there we go. Yeah, it's one of those ones that choral societies do over and over again for good reason. Although when it was premiered in London for the first time, there's a great newspaper report that says that, going by the number of rehearsals and the amount of money that this thing cost to put on and the difficulty of the music, it seems unlikely that this piece will ever be played again in the UK. Perhaps not journalism's finest moment of predicting the future there. But it was actually very common for decades after the initial performances, because it was an enormous undertaking to do this piece. It was conventional to play the first three movements and not the finale. So it's a big sign of the times that we're actually doing the complete opposite of that. We're doing the longest, most difficult, most amazing movement, and not the other three. But like I said yesterday, do listen to the other three, because they are good, and it has a tremendous sweep, the whole piece. Great. Well, let's we've got 1 minute to go, and then we'll do our warm-ups. Make sure that you've got a bit of space around you. That you're welcome to sit down, stand up, whatever is best for you, really. Perhaps for some of the higher stuff or whatever, you might want to stand up, but I sit down for the whole thing, so I can vouch for sitting down. It's one of the great luxuries of self-isolation choir, is that you can be in the comfiest chair imaginable rather than some kind of uncomfortable choir stall or worse. Okay, so make sure you've got a glass of water handy as well, and let's do a couple of warm-ups. So perhaps a bit of lip trilling. We got pretty good at that. Team Mahler got pretty good at that. But if you weren't in part of Team Mahler, then you sort of go like this. So the idea is that your lips are kind of pushed quite firmly together, and then you force air out through them and kind of hum at the same time, and you create a note and a sort of... To start with, doesn't need to be any particular note, just kind of doodle around. Explore your lower register and your higher register. Sounds a bit like a motorbike. Good stuff. It's a good way of getting your breath control going, because you need to take a deep breath, but then you can't let the air out too quickly. A common mistake in singing is to kind of let out all the air quickly, and then you've got to breathe loads. This trains you to use those tummy muscles to release the air at a good rate. About as much as I can do. Sometimes makes your nose tickle. I've never really figured out why that is, but it is. Wow, Richard Robb says sang it once with Richard Hickox. Wow, great conductor. Great, known mostly for conducting English music, but he was a great conductor of Beethoven in particular. That's an amazing story. And Ian from Ontario, that's amazing. So what time is it, Ontario? It must be mid-afternoon. Quite a good time for a rehearsal, really. Okay, so that's enough lip trilling for now. Let's just do a bit of humming. Hit the piano is the right volume. Just in open fifths. Really resonant hum. Lots of space in your mouth. Now, just about. We get just about there. We get to an F in this piece. That was an E. So we'll warm up slowly to make sure we get there. Let's try that going down. Slightly more familiar territory. But, you know, always just pick whatever octave you want when he's doing these warm-ups. So, just a R for now. Maybe or again. Keep going if you want to. Maybe one more on R. I can't get down there. Great stuff. Okay, and then perhaps one old favourite. Pop a caterpillar. Start slowly for now. For those of you who don't know this one, haven't learnt to fear the very name. The words are pop a caterpillar, as though you literally a caterpillar. And the idea is to really get your mouth going, because there's quite a lot of fast kind of patter in bits of this symphony, so good to get our consonants nice and lively. So pop a caterpillar, 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 pop, going up. Pop a caterpillar, 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 pop. Pop a caterpillar, 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 pop. Good stuff. Okay, great. Well, I think that's enough of a warm-up. Let's get going on the piece. I don't know if you've been sent round my marked up score yet, but I think we're on the same edition anyway. For me, your first entry is on page 8, where you first sing Freude, which is really the word of the moment in this piece. Although there's a famous, I think there's a video of it. In fact, there is a video of it. In 1989, when the Berlin Wall came down, not that I remember, Leonard Bernstein gave a performance of this piece in Berlin and substituted the word Freude for Freiheit, which is the word for freedom in German. It's become something of a kind of iconic performance, one of the kind of great stunts, and that's not to demean it, that Bernstein was kind of known for. In fact, when JFK was shot, Bernstein performed Mahler's Resurrection Symphony the next day. So it was, these two pieces are kind of two Bernstein favourites. Okay, that's useful, Malcolm. So page 10 in older editions. Well, we're going to go through sort of one page at a time. So as long as we start in the same place, we shouldn't get lost. Okay, so what happens is we have this baritone. Oh, Freunde, nicht diese Töne. So when you hear him start singing, you think, right, it's nearly me. Nearly my moment. He goes on for a bit. And he ends by going den voller, and then you get this almighty crash in the orchestra, and then Freude, Freude, and that's you. So you hardly get a moment to kind of think, or rather, it's more like you don't give him a moment to think. He sings it, and straight away you're like, yes, joy. That's what we're all about. Freude, Freude. Let's just try that on its own. Just after 2. 1, 2. Freude. Yeah, great. So it's, I suppose if I was to spell it in English, you'd be F-R-O-I-D-E-R, maybe. The main thing is the vowel is an oi. Not too kind of oi, as they kind of from East London, but Freude. Nice round diphthong. And a pretty strong rolled R. In fact, it's such a famous moment, this. I almost like to think that however much the baritone rolls his R, you need to roll it a little bit more than that. Really make an impact. Such a great moment where kind of the basses of the choir kick things off like this. So you do that twice, and then he sings a little tune. Götterfunken, Tochter aus Elysium. And we don't sing all these words back, but they mean, so Freude, schöne Götterfunken, which means joy, beautiful gold spark in Götterfunken. Tochter aus Elysium, daughter of Elysium. Wir betreten Feuertrunken. We enter burning with fervor. Himmlische, dein Heiligtum. O heavenly one, your sanctuary. There's a good pun there, actually. Wir betreten, which is the German for we enter. Betreten is also an adjective in German that means humbly. So it's kind of a pun on, humbly sort of submitting ourselves, this kind of divine idea of joy. And then the words go on, and these are where the words which we then repeat afterwards. Deine Zauber binden wieder. Your magic, deine Zauber, binden wieder, binds together, again, binden, just like in English, was die Mode streng geteilt. Die Mode, like the kind of the mode of things, like the fashion, that which kind of customarily has strictly divided. So your magic, joy, the magic of joy, binds together the things that are usually kept apart. In other words, people. Alle Menschen werden Brüder. All men will become brothers. Wo dein sanfte Flügel weit. Wherever your gentle wings linger. Flügel, wonderful German word for wings. So he sings that. And then at letter D, if you've got letters, we come in and we kind of affirm it. We think, yes, we like this guy. He's talking sense. So we repeat it. Deine Zauber binden wieder. So let's just get used to the words before we sing them. So I'll say one line at a time, and then just repeat after me. So, Deine Zauber binden wieder. Deine Zauber binden wieder. Great. Was die Mode streng geteilt. Was die Mode streng geteilt. Yeah, good. That's a tricky word, geteilt. The th in German, they never do a the or a th. So it's just a t. Geteilt. Yeah, and Morde, almost like the English woman's name, Maud. Morde, not Mode, Morde. Was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder. Alle Menschen werden Brüder. Great. And you can just flip the R in werden. So not a werden, just a werden. It's a useful thing to do when we're singing, because werden, you can't really hear as an audience member that it's an R. And the whole point, like I was saying, is that people kind of get it. So just flip that kind of R. But then Brüder, Brüder, you can really roll that one. And that's an Ü, German umlaut, where you make an E sound, the kind of back of your mouth, E, and then you make an U face. So I, Brüder. Alle Menschen werden Brüder. Dein sanfter Flügel weit. Sorry, wo dein sanfter Flügel weit. Wo dein sanfter Flügel weit. Very good, yeah. Weilt, like Kurt Weill, if you've ever heard of him. He was a kind of good kind of 20th century German composer. Wo dein sanfter. And you'll see in the marked up score, if you've got one, a S at the beginning of a word in German is a Z. Sanfter, Z, voiced, Z. Flügelweit, and there's another umlaut with a U. Flügelweit. So, let's try that all through from beginning of D. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Great, yeah. And streng, ST in German, they always add an extra H. So it's a streng, kind of like an SHT. Compared to in German when you have an SCH, which is a really strong sh. Great, okay, let's try singing that through then. Sorry, we're down here. Just slowly. Deine Zauber, 1, 2. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Good stuff. And the T of Flügelwald is on the downbeat of the next bar, so full length minim on that one. Flügelwald. Yeah, just do that for me. 1, 2. Flügelwald. Great. And the other thing to watch out for, werden Brüder wo, Brüder wo. So the first note, the G, and the first of the quavers is slurred, Brüder wo, and then you just kind of squeeze in that D there. Great. Let's do that a little more up to speed. 1, 2. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Good stuff. Yeah, very good. Let's have a real kick on alle. That's a lovely syncopation on the kind of on a weak beat of the bar. Streng geteilt. Ah, really kind of grab it by the scruff of the neck. For once, the strength is not on the downbeat, it's just before it. Kind of really emphasizing all men should be brothers. Great. Another word to look out for. Was die Mode. Doesn't sound kind of right if you go was die Mode. So really, was. A bit of kind of chutzpah in that word. And a real kind of ts for Zauber. Deine Zauber binden wieder. We're all kind of hovering around this middle note. Okay, once more, then we'll go on. So, 1, 2. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Good stuff. Well done. Okay, so that's our kind of first entry. And then the soloists sing the next bit on their own, leading into figure E. And I'll just quickly go over the text so you can kind of get your bearings. So, wem der große Wurf gelungen, whoever has been lucky enough, eines Freundes Freund zu sein, to become a friend to a friend. It's kind of quaint. Wer ein holdes Weib errungen, whoever has a lovely wife, a fair wife, mische seinen Jubelein, let them join our songs of praise. Like in Dulce Jubilo, if you know that carol. It's the same word, really. Ja, wer auch nur eine Seele, and this is where we repeat the text afterwards, so it's the same as us. Yes, and anyone who can call just one soul, nur eine Seele, sein nennt auf den Erdenrund, their own on the earth, on the round earth. Und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stähler weinen sich auch diesem Bund. And any who cannot, so anyone who can't call a soul their own on the earth, aka nobody, let them slink away weinend, weeping from this gathering, Bund. So we repeat that at figure E, starting with a really fantastic Ja on the offbeat from us. It's an amazing moment, that. It's a classic Beethoven to kind of catch us off guard. So the soloists are just going, konnt der Stähler weinen sich auch diesem Bund, ja. So even before the soloists have finished their last note, we kick in to say again, yes, we really agree with you guys. You're all on the right lines here. So really strong, ja, like a kind of almost like a kind of if you're in a kind of German drinking hall, and you kind of join in with the brass band who are playing in the corner. It really needs that level of kind of oomph. There's nothing particularly refined about a lot of this music because of the kind of universality that Beethoven was going for. Ja. So let's just try that ja, just after 2, and we're on the offbeat. 1, 2, ja. Yeah, so a really strong ja, ja. It's not a hard consonant, a J in German, but you can give it quite a lot of kick. Just once again. 1, 2, ja. Great, yeah. Make the rest of the choir jump out of their skin. They're like, whoa, were we meant to come in there? Oh no, we're on the downbeat. Give them a fright. So, afterwards, let's just try the words. Just say them with me. Ja, wer auch nur eine Seele sein nennt auf dem Erdenrund. Und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stähler, weinend sich auch diesem Bund. Yeah, great. So Bund, the D is a bit like a T in English at the end. Bund. I don't think there's anything else too tricky in that one. Auch. So it's a very strong kind of H. Auch. Nur eine Seele. Another Z instead of an S, basically. Seele sein nennt auf dem Erdenrund. Yeah, little flipped R's in Erdenrund. And then same thing happens again. Und we come in on that half beat, on the weak beat. Really get things going. Wer's nie gekonnt, der Stähler, again, Stähler, le weinend sich aus diesem Bund. So let's sing it. A little bit under tempo for now. 1, 2, ja, wer auch nur eine Seele sein nennt auf dem Erdenrund. Und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stähler weinen sich auch diesem Bund. Very good. Yeah. It's particularly kind of there's a word for it which I can't quite think of. Und gutsy, that's the word I'm looking for. So that second syncopation, und wer's nie, and then he's written a sforzando on nie. So just after you've gone for that half on that syncopated und, we've got another accent, and then a diminuendo. So und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stähler weinen sich auch diesem Bund. So strong, and then it kind of runs away, because of course that's what the words are saying. Anyone who doesn't have a soul on this earth, they can just run away crying. So that's kind of what you're imitating there. And another last note with a full length, diesen Bund. So put the D which sounds like a T, on the downbeat of the next bar. Let's try it once more. So from the upbeat to E, ja, wer auch, 1, 2. Ja, wer auch nur eine Seele sei, nimmt auf den Erden rund, und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stille weinen sich auch diesen Bund. Yeah, very good. So that A swoops up to a D. Und wer's nie, und wer's nie. Let's just do that. 1, 2. Und wer's nie. Yeah, very good. And then let's try on its own. Gekonnt der Stille wein. 1, 2. Gekonnt der Stille wein. Yeah, very good. So let's stick the two together. Und 1, 2. Und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stille weinen sich auch diesem Bund. Perfect. Okay, let's try that up to speed from Ja, from the beginning of figure E, with our upbeat. 1, 2. Ja, wer auch nur eine Seele sei, nennt auf dem Erden rund, und wer's nie gekonnt, der Stille weinen sich auch diesem Bund. Great. Yeah, so you need to kind of rein in the testosterone for those last 3 bars. It can be easy to kind of keep the butchness through to the end, but it really needs to kind of fade away to something much gentler at the end. Great. Okay, so those are our first 2 entries. And in the way I've split it up for when you're recording, that together is your first section that you record. So I hope that makes it kind of nice and bite-sized, because one of the great things that is about doing this is that you can practice individual sections, so you've really got your head around them, and then record them. And you don't need to worry about the rest of the piece, and then you don't need to worry about that bit you just recorded. You can focus on the next bit and then record that, so you can really do the best that you possibly can. It's a real advantage of this way of doing things. Okay, so that takes us to G. And the same thing happens again, really. The soloists sing something, and then we sing it back to them. Küsse gab sie uns und Reben, einen Freund geprüft im Tod. So Küsse, kisses, she gives us, she being nature. That's what the soloists have just been talking about. Nature gives us kisses and wine. A true friend. My score's just a bit, there it is. Even in death. Im Tod, German word for death. Wohllust ward dem Wurm gegeben. Even the worm, or it might perhaps means dragon, it can mean both in German, I think. Wurm was given desire for joy. Und der Cherub steht vor Gott. And the cherub stands before God. Cherub, CH like a K in English, and steht with an SH, for God, like an FOR, just like in English, for God. Küsse, that's another of those umlauts. Küsse gab sie, like a Z, sie uns und Reben, nice rolled R on Reben, and E, like a kind of Yorkshire accent, Reben. Einen Freund, there's that word again. Geprüft im Tod. Im. Something about English that makes us want to say in, but it's im. Wohl, so like a V for the W. Wohllust. Lust. Again, it's like a northern accent. There's a reason for that, actually, which is that, especially after the French invaded, the kind of Saxon dialects of English were kind of increasingly pushed further north rather than being in the south, where people, heaven forbid, started speaking French more and more. So the northern accent has a lot in common with the German accent for that reason. So Wohllust ward dem Wurm gegeben und der Cherub steht vor Gott. Okay, let's try and say it in rhythm. Not a very difficult rhythm, this one, except for the very end. So starting from Küsse, no notes for now, just the words in rhythm. Starting from G. 1, 2. Küsse gab sie uns und Reben, einen Freund geprüft im Tod. Wohllust war dem Wurm gegeben und der Cherub steht vor Gott. Great, yeah. Cherub steht vor Gott. And that T is on the last crotchet of the bar. Forgot. Let's just try. Cherub steht forgot. 1. Cherub steht forgot. Once again. 1. Cherub steht forgot. Yeah, brilliant. And again, it's really 3 accents in a row. Cherub steht forgot. Let's try it with the notes. Kuss. Again, a little under tempo to start with so we know where we are. 1 and 2 and Küsse gab sie uns und Reben, einen Freund geprüft im Tod, voll Lust war dem Wurm gegeben und der Cherub steht vor Gott. Yeah, he liked a difficult ending, did Beethoven. Jump right up that octave. Und der let's just try that on its own. 1, 2. Und der very good. And then going on. 1, 2. Und der Cherub steht vor Gott. Perfect. Well done. Let's try that. A bit more up to tempo. From G, from Küsse. Really, Küsse. 1, 2. Küsse gab sie uns und Reben, einen Freund geprüft im Tod. Wollust war dem Wurm gegeben und der Cherub steht vor Gott. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, really good. Let's accent that wohl. It's another of those accented weak notes, which Beethoven was clearly rather pleased with that idea. So, Wollust war dem Wurm. And the whole thing just needs to have plenty of spring in its step. Let's try it up to speed. Kuss der gab sie uns und Reben. Okay, 1, 2. Küsse gab sie uns und Reben, einen Freund geprüft im Tod. Wollust war den Wurm gegeben und der Cherub steht vor Gott. Yeah, great. Really got to squeeze in that Cherub steht. A lot of consonant between rub and steht. Good stuff. Well done. Okay, so here we are. Und der Cherub steht vor Gott. I said he repeats himself a lot in this piece. This is a particularly glorious moment. Und der Cherub steht vor Gott. And then steht vor Gott. 1, vor Gott. And then extraordinary moment. For God. Extraordinary shift. So we're in A major, and then a kind of coup de théâtre. Suddenly we're in F, as though he's saying the cherub stands before God, and then at that moment he actually sees God, and at that moment we think that is something else. Extraordinary moment, and a pause on it, and then kind of aghast silence afterwards. So enjoy that moment. Important thing here, let's maybe mark in forte at the first Und der Cherub, where the minims start, because we don't want to be fortissimo yet. He's written fortissimo where he wants it, so we need to have somewhere to go. If we kind of give it all the beans too early, it loses the impact of that extraordinary moment. And, you know, he writes fortissimo 3 times on every single word got, and I think by that really he means give it more every time. You know, show me what you've really got. Let's try that. From Und der Cherub. 1, 2. Und der Cherub steht vor Gott, steht vor Gott, vor Gott, vor Gott. Yeah, that's it. So, you know, a really huge moment there, and we hold on to it for as long as we've kind of think we've got in us. and then watch for the cutoff. And every time, as well as increasing the dynamic of the notes, increase the dynamic of the consonants as well. Forgot, forgot. Really give it what you've got at that moment. And we've got these, it's quite hard to see in my score, but they have got staccato notes over them, the minims, which basically means half the length in this context. Und der Kerub steht, almost breathless, you know, which I think is the idea. Let's try that. So really separate out these minims, and when we get to the first got, steht for Gott, comes on the last crotchet, that T, which is written in the score I've sent round. So everyone together. Und der 1, 2. Und der Kerub steht vor Gott, steht vor Gott, vor Gott. 1, 2, vor Gott. Well done. Great. Yes, I'll probably go into, in fact, I will, so annoying when conductors say probably, I will definitely go into 4 in those last 2 bars. So the last 4 bars, it would be 1, 4, God, 1, 2, 4, God, just like that. So really eyes up at that moment. You have a little video of me conducting for the recording track. You may be pleased or not so pleased to hear. Great. So that's that moment. And then the mood just completely changes in the kind of way only Beethoven was really able to do. And we get this kind of sorcerer's apprentice idea. Sorcerer's apprentice idea. Contrabassoon. Bass drum. Clarinets. Kind of jolly march in what in those days was known as the Turkish style. Who knows what real resemblance it bears to Turkish music. I think the kind of thrill they got out of it was that it involved a bass drum and some cymbals and something called a jingling jolly, which is like a stick with lots of little bells on it, which they kind of bang on the ground to kind of create a kind of jingle bell sound, which would be at the same time as these. You can kind of hear it jingling along. And that was considered to be Turkish. So it's Beethoven kind of trying to be a bit exotic, perhaps. And we get this wonderful sort of camp tenor solo, really, where he goes, Froh, froh, wie seine Sonne, seine Sonne. So just like the beginning had a bass solo to kick us off, this time we got a tenor. And we come in on my page 20, sometime after figure I, with the word laufet. And here we're on our own with the rest of the blokes. Tenors split. Laufet. Really jolly music. Laufet. Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn. Basically means run your course. Bahn, like Autobahn in German, which is a word you may know. Or Bahnhof, which means train station. So run your course, brothers. Freudig, joyfully. Wie ein Held zum Siegen, like a hero who conquers. So basically saying, carry yourself with confidence. The confidence of someone who doesn't lose at stuff. The confidence of someone who is really in control of life. And then we repeat it. Freudig, freudig, wie ein Held zum Siegen. Nice little short bit, but extremely memorable. So let's try the words with the rhythm, no notes for now, from Laufet. 1, 2, 1, 2. Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn, freudig, wie ein Held zum Siegen, wie ein Held zum Siegen. Yeah, great. So zum zum Siegen. And Held, with like a T on the end. Laufet, Brüder, nice rolled R. Eure, just like in Freude, Oi, it's that vowel. Bahn, freudig. The G at the end of a word in German is like a H, like quite a soft H almost. I mean, it's a soft G, but we don't have one in English, so H is sort of the simplest, closest thing we have. Freudig. So, let's try it with the notes. Laufet. Really, lots of spring in its step. 1 and 2. And laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn, freudig, wie ein Held zum Siegen, wie ein Held zum Siegen. Good. Well done. He's quite specific with the notation here. There's lots of quaver rests where you don't necessarily expect there to be quaver rests. Basically telling you where he wants it to be legato and where he wants it to be sprightly. So the first bar, we've got those crotchets instead of dotted crotchets. Laufet. So separate the notes, even though it's one word. Laufet, he wants it to be really jaunty. Laufet, and then no rests in the next one. Brüder, eure Bahn. I can't really get down there. But there he wants it to be smoother. So, Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn. Like that. And then freudig, we got a long and then a short one. Freudig. And then same again. Wie ein. And then another short one. Held. And then long. Zum Siegen. Wie ein Held. It's quite intuitive to read once you kind of get in the zone. And it's meant to mimic the matter of speech. Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn. Freudig. Wie ein Held zum Siegen. Wie ein Held. Let's try saying it with the articulation. So some of them long, some of them short. With me from Laufet. 1 and 2. And Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn. Freudig, wie ein Held zum Siegen. Wie ein Held zum Siegen. Yeah, brilliant, well done. And zum is a word. It sounds a bit odd if we go zum. So really, most of the word is a Zum Siegen. We really hum the vast majority of it. Zum Siegen. Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn. Let's sing it together. 1 and 2. And laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn. Freudig, wie ein Held zum Siegen. Wie ein Held zum Siegen. Great. And then we go on. 1, 2. Freudig. Freudig. One of those first high notes. Freudig. And then wie ein Held zum Siegen. And that's the end of that section. So let's just try that last bit. From freudig on the B flat. This is 6 bars before K. 7 bars before K. 1 and 2. And freudig. 1, 2. Freudig. Wie ein Held zum Siegen. Great. Good stuff. He's been a bit lazy with the notation because wie ein Held was short before. He's not bothered to write crotchets again. But it should be short. Freudig wie ein Held. So maybe it might be nice to write that in. Okay. And then there's a kind of quite a long orchestral interlude. And then the famous chorus. So I think what we should do before we move on, let's sing through everything up until that point with the backing track. So you don't need to hear me kind of crashing away and singing away. So, back to what I call part A, which is on page 8, the Allegro SI, your first entry. So you'll hear the bass, the baritone, singing his solo, and then we'll come in. I'll conduct you this time. He says confidently. Get it to play.
was die Mode strenge treibt.
Okay, there we go. So, little intro, just before your first entry, and then you'll come in. I'll conduct with you. But I won't sing, because you'll have Tom singing in your ear. And it's actually a rather wonderful moment in the backing track, this, because Tom is singing both the solo and the chorus, so he has a brief conversation with himself. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Sorry, that's the synchronization clap for when you record. That's your note, Freude.
Freude, schöne Götterfunken, Tochter aus Elysium, wir betreten feuertrunken, himmlische dein Heiligtum. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode strenge treibt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel fällt. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode strenge treibt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt.
Jumping ahead a little bit. Okay, this is your entry coming up. Your ya. 1, 2, 1, 2. Great. And that's part A. So that's the first bit you'll record. You'll hear that in the solo sections, I keep it just to the bass. Makes it just a little bit easier to follow for when you're recording. So you can always just follow Tom at the bottom. Yeah, as Mark says, he's called Tom Herring. Such a strong name, really. And his choir, a fantastic choir called Sansara, who've recorded all of this with us. And done an absolutely fantastic job, so you're going to get to know Tom's voice rather well. Quite a hearty bass voice it is. Okay, so let's go ahead to G. Figure G. And this will start just about where we got to. So this is just after figure F. I'll bring you in. One, two. Good stuff. It's quite a moment, that. Great. Okay, let's jump ahead. So we get a bit of tenor next. 1, 2. Oh, that's me clapping. So this is 4 bars before your entry. That's your F for Laufet. So here's the tenor. 1, 2. One, two. 1, 2. That's the idea. Good stuff. So there we are. That's everything we've just done. Goes a bit like a flash. I mean, there are longer passages in between that I sort of skipped through, but It sometimes does go like a flash, this piece. Okay, I hope you can hopefully hear Tom, that is, strong in your right ear and then the rest in the other ear. So you've always got kind of literally one ear on your part. Okay, so next, really the most famous moment, figure M, the big chorus, Freude schöne Götterfunken. So repeating the words we've had before, sort of emphatically, if that's not too weak a word really for this moment. Freude. So we're familiar with the words. Let's just sing it slowly through together. It's a long passage, this, from M all the way through to the Andante maestoso. That's your starting D. Freude. It's page 25 in my edition. 1, 2, 1, 2. Freude schöne Götterfunken. Start again. 1, 2, 1, 2. Freude schöne Götterfunken, Tochter aus Elysium. Wir betreten feuertrunken, himmlische dein Heiligtum. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mutter streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weht. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mutter streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Well done. Good. Yeah, that's a puff, that one. Breathe where you need to. I mean, I find actually it's quite naturally written in some places. It could be worse. You could be the sopranos or the tenors. But breathe as you need. That's one of the nice things about this choir. Aus Elysium. There's a huge amount of dispute about how to pronounce this word, but I've decided that we're going to say Elysium every time. It's also spelt differently throughout the piece, but Elysium. Great, okay. I think we should do that once more. Give it just so much guts. It's only forte, so don't scream it out, but give it just loads of punch. And the things to take notice of are the sforzandos, Beethoven's favourite marking. Elysium, wir betreten feuertrunken. Himmlische dein Heiligtum. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. And that fortissimo is kind of an upgrade from where we've been forte. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. So really watch out for those sforzandos. Let's sing it together. Let's do it with Tom. If I can find it. This is part D in the master track. So that's your starting note, and we'll go 20 bars or so before this little introduction, and I'll bring you in. Real moment of mystery and suspense. Great sense of theatre. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2.
Freude schöne Götterfunken, Tochter aus Elysium. Wir betreten feuertrunken, himmlische dein Heiligtum. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt.
Great. It's such a thrill to sing that bit. Good stuff. Yeah, really, you can't give it too much on the accents. You can give it too much on the general dynamic. Keep that, within bounds. It should be joyful, not sort of ramming it down your throat, so to speak. So you can leave yourself space that the accents really dance, really kind of jump out. Great, well done. Okay, so there's a brief break there, but not a long one, and then more of the kind of real meaty stuff. Sei, seid umschlungen Millionen. Let's try these words. Seid umschlungen. Seid umschlungen. Yeah, schl, so that's a really strong sh. Millionen. Millionen. Very much like English, that one. Diesen Kuss der ganzen Welt. Diesen Kuss der ganzen Welt. Yeah, Welt with a V. And then we repeat it. Seid umschlungen Millionen, diesen Kuss der ganzen Welt. And then next, when we get to letter N, is the next line of the poem. Brüder, brothers, überm Sternzelt, above the canopy of stars, überm Sternzelt, muss ein lieber Vater wohnen, must a loving father dwell. Nice simple bit of poetry there. The first bit, seid umschlungen, be embraced, you millions. Diesen Kuss, this kiss, is for the whole world, or is of der ganzen Welt. So, nice and slow this bit. You're here accompanied by a mighty combination of cellos, basses and trombones. And they give you your note, and then you come in. Seid umschlungen Millionen. That's it. Yeah, so we got more of these dots on top of the minims. So really separate them. Or none. So it's really emphatic. And so you can hear the text really clearly. Again, that was extremely important to him. Very rich, very hearty, full of weight. And this really is fortissimo, so, you know. Don't be caught out by Millionen. 3 beats on me. 1, 2, 3. Seid umschlungen Millionen. Diesen Kuss der ganzen Welt. 2, 3. And that T is on the last crotchet. Welt. Exactly. And I think we can have a little break in like a sort of conscious breath. Diesen Kuss der, and then go for that top note. Ganzen Welt. And then seid umschlungen with me. 1. Seid umschlungen Millionen. And diesen Kuss der ganzen Welt. 2 and 3. Ta. Just like before, crotchet on the crotchet, T on the last crotchet. And just like before as well, after Kuss, a little lift there. Der ganzen Welt. Very good. Well done. Yeah. He writes forte very specifically on that second Seid umschlungen. So after the beef of the first one, the upper voices come in, and we need to be kind of gracious towards them and not blow them out the water, even though we know we could. So just down one dynamic, and then when we get to ganzen Welt just before N, then we're back to fortissimo. Next bit. Brüder. Quite a tricky rhythm that somehow. Brüder with me. 1, 2, 3. Brüder. Great. And then 1. Überm Sternenzelt muss ein lieber Vater Well done. If you need to falsetto the Fs, as I just did, do. Whatever you do, don't sing them down the octave. Right up there with the tenors. Let's keep going. Brüder. So going on Brüder. 1, 2, 3. Brüder überm Sternenzelt muss ein lieber Vater wohnen. That's it. Yeah, very good. Let's do that once more. You need a lot of breath control with this. Like I say, top up where you need to. Watch that rhythm on überm Stern. 1 überm Stern. And on the last Vater wohnen. Vater wohnen. And that F down to a G. So from that, the previous Brüder. 1, 2, 3. Brüder überm Sternenzelt muss ein lieber Vater wohnen. Great, well done. That's that whole bit. Tell you what, so what have we got? We've got 2 minutes left. So let's sing that section with Tom, our good friend Tom. So this I call section E. So you get a big G. That's a small G. You get a big G in the trombones, and then you're in. 1 and 2. Forte. And then we get a little taster of next time. Gorgeous little bit of harmony. Great. Well done. That takes us pretty much exactly to the middle point. So we've got a full rehearsal, I think, at the weekend, where we'll cover that with everybody. We might go a little bit further in, but I'll mostly focus on what we've just done. And then next week we can look at the second half of the piece, do a bit of recapping of our of the first half, and then we've got a couple of full rehearsals, which will be great fun, where we can sing along a bit with the soloist, sing along a bit with the orchestra as well, and really kind of get this piece under our skin. It's a great pleasure to spend the evening with you, gentlemen. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone else who joined, who's not necessarily in the bass section, honorary members of the bass section. Very, very, very honourable section to be a member of. Enjoy looking at this in your spare time. Listen to it. Like I say, there are wonderful recordings all over the place, and we're going to contribute our own wonderful recording pretty soon. So thank you and good night.